The subject of the persecution of trans people during World War II Germany is a very new field of study. While we somewhat knew trans people were harassed, the full extent is still unknown. As such, this video is a very small window into the beginning of the research. The fact that trans people were persecuted during the Holocaust was not even an established legal fact until a couple of years ago. A German feminist who excludes trans people in her advocacy stated on the platform formerly known as Twitter that trans people were not targeted in the same way gay and bi men were. When this woman was called a Holocaust denier, she sued her adversaries. But this kickstarted research who found her to be incorrect, and she was ruled against. So let's do a brief overview of what we know. Weimar Germany from 1918 to 1933 had a thriving gay and lesbian scene. And while some trans people were out and lived authentically, we can't say that it was in any way comparable to today in some Western countries. Before and during the Weimar years, there were strict laws against cross-dressing, which targeted trans women more, though trans men were also sometimes punished under it. During the Weimar years, however, trans people made some strides. Thanks to Magnus Hirschfeld and the Institute for Sexual Science, he was at the forefront of helping trans people live their authentic lives. With his help, many trans people were able to get what were called transvestite permits. I'm aware this term is antiquated, which meant they were exempt from cross-dressing laws. Some were also able to legally change their names. There was a small but vibrant trans community, with publications and a nightclub in Berlin. While Weimar Germany was much more liberal, we don't want to overstate this, as it's likely that most trans people were not out, as it was still somewhat taboo. I'm also unsure how one would prove they were genuinely trans to receive a permit. When the Nazis took over in 1933, as with all gay and lesbian publications and nightclubs, their trans counterparts were closed. Hirschfeld's institute was destroyed. As he was both Jewish and gay, he went into exile but died before the war. The Nazis didn't speak often about trans people, but in an article published in 2023 by Cambridge, they state that a few times it was specifically called out as a special kind of degeneracy. There was no directive to send trans people to camps or even necessarily arrest them, but their permits were largely nullified. Jewish trans people were often early targets, with some being sent to camps before the war and then released. It was up to each local police squad to decide what to do with trans people, but there is evidence that some were sent to camps. These were largely individuals that worked as prostitutes, or those who came to police attention after repeatedly wearing clothes for the gender they felt they belonged to. As many such records have been destroyed, and a resurgence of interest has come about, this is a burgeoning area of Holocaust research.